All right, guys, we are back for another weekly Wednesday live Q&A. For those of you who don't know me, because I will be posting these on YouTube, my name is Brandon Wadas. I'm a natural professional bodybuilder, contest prep coach, and core nutritionals representative. So we're going to be diving right in. I'll let a few people roll in. We had a lot of great questions roll in today. Per usual, you guys never disappoint me with the questions. And bring them on camera. All right, yeah, here we go. Let's do this. I don't know what that was. But this isn't a shirtless Facebook Live. Oh, man. Here's the trolls already. Yellow bird. No shirtless Facebook Lives. All right. All right, guys. Hey, Karen, how's it going? All right, so we're going to start off with the doozy here. It seems like everybody was kind of waiting for 7 o'clock. You know, I started on the dot. We will go right into it. I had a couple questions roll in through the DMs. I did take a few notes along the way, so I didn't miss any this time because I think every week I've missed at least one question. But anyway, we're going to dive right in with a hot topic. We're going to start off with keto dieting. Somebody asked me to say my opinion on keto, and I'm gonna give it. So, just like any other diet, it has its time and its place. And I think that's where this person was getting at, is when do I think, if at all, it would be beneficial to implement keto? So, first and foremost, before we get into any specific diet, the most important thing is obviously we want to make sure we are in a caloric deficit. So if we're going to use keto to get in a caloric deficit, awesome. Okay, you know, that can work. But is keto my number one choice? Is my number two choice? Is my number three choice? Absolutely not. You know, I do not like keto. Do I find that it has benefits? Yes. I feel like there are certain benefits to keto. Mainly, you know, I've seen studies that say that it helps with those that have cancer or Alzheimer's, you know, helps with the cognitive function. So yeah, I mean, there are some benefits to it. As far as a competitor goes, you know, I really don't think that it is primarily beneficial to run keto. Now, what this person was getting at, as far as using keto for a competition diet, and another thing that they wanted to incorporate is what is the difference between keto and just a high-fat, low-carb diet. There's a distinct difference, but we'll get to that in a sec. So when would I use keto, if at all? Well, usually I wouldn't. But if I'm ever going to use keto, it's if someone is really, really stalling and we've tried other diet methods and they're just not working. Just to try to finish somebody off, you know, kind of as a last-ditch effort. If they're already eating, you know, really low carb, if their fat's low and, you know, all they're eating is protein, we might try keto as a last resort, but once again, it would be a last resort. So what is the difference between keto and just a conventional low-carb diet? So true keto usually involves about 75% fat, 20% protein, and 5% carbs. Now, the reason why that is because the protein has to be low enough where the protein is not converted through gluconeogenesis into carbohydrates, because that's where a lot of people actually fail at keto, is they end up eating too much protein and then it's eventually converted into glucose through gluconeogenesis, and it kicks them out of ketosis. Now, a typical low-carb diet can be anywhere between 10 and 30% carbs. So once again, I mean, it's not quite keto. It has 40 to 50% protein typically. So once again, that's way outside of the keto range. That's double the protein that you'd be eating during using the keto diet. And the fat is significantly less, even though it is higher. You know, it would still be around, you know, 40%. So if it's 40-40, you know, 40-40-20, you know, it could be a little bit more or less depending on what's exactly working for you. And obviously, if you're in keto, if you're using the keto diet, your body is producing ketones. So that's the main difference between a high-fat diet and then a keto diet. Obviously, you're in ketosis, and that is a distinct state, and you don't get that if you're just running a high-fat diet. All right. Now, Jumping off of that one also, I do want to touch on a few fads. I feel like it is very relevant to the keto topic, especially in 2017. So 2017, I pretty much saw this one coming, was the year of keto. I didn't call it. I saw somebody else call it, and I'm not going to say that, but I knew it was coming. You know, like you could see a lot of people were jumping on the bandwagon of keto. But what I'm getting at as far as fad diets go is they come and they go. You see it come all the time. And some other things that I did want to touch on, you know, while we're at it, it's the new year. People are trying to push your products. They're trying to make you buy all their BS. I am going to try to keep these a little bit cleaner and not try to curse because, like I said, I will post these to YouTube eventually, and I don't want to have to go back and beep them out. But things like waist trainers, diet teas, power bands, you know, creams, whatever these things that have these huge promises to make you lose a ton of weight in a short amount of time, or these ancient secrets. You know, you see a lot of these off-the-wall nutritional programs and, you know, basically diet remedies, diet pills, teas, whatever, that they're like, oh, we found this ancient secret to help you lose weight. I'll tell you right now, these ancient people, they didn't care about losing weight. They cared about staying alive. So when they say about these ancient secrets to lose weight, you know, I just don't believe it. You know, back then, you know, only it's in modern times that we're really concerned about losing weight because we're a bunch of fat asses. You know, we have the most readily available food sources that we ever had, you know, probably in the course of human history. So now, obviously, it's a plague. It's an epidemic of people that are obese. So when people are talking about these ancient secrets, I would just automatically, you know, tell them to stop. I mean, I've seen some funny things at these trade shows of people selling all these kind of products, these power bands to make, you know, your balance, socks to make you balance, you know, increase your power or whatever, creams to make you instantly lose weight, and it's just a bunch of crap. So be very mindful about these fads or these wraps, especially with the new year and people trying to run sales and push their products, because at the end of the day, they're just trying to get your money, and there is no secret to weight loss. There's no special pill that's going to help you drop weight instantly. There's no special workout program that's going to make you shred fat. You know, it's just consistency over time. All right. I did have a couple other ones here, and feel free to ask any more on the live feed itself. Jacob, I did see that you got one here, so I'll answer that right now. Probably been asked this before, but high sodium pre-workout better for overall performance? Yeah, absolutely, Jacob. So I've actually been experimenting with that myself recently. And before, I would have about 200, and it was low. Like, honestly, like, I think I'm going to keep upping it. I would have like 200 to 300 milligrams of sodium pre-workout, and now, man, I've been bumping it up, and I think that it's been helping me with my performance. Once I get leaner, I'm interested to see you know, how it affects me as far as like vascularity and like help catching a pump more. But right now, since I'm at a higher body fat percentage, I don't know if I'm feeling the effects quite as much. But right now, I've been doing about it comes out to about 700 grams, or 700 milligrams, excuse me, of sodium pre-workout, and it does help with the pump. Of course, I am taking core pump, and I am using core load also to really help shuttle all those nutrients in, and I'm drinking a ton of water. Just make sure, you know, that if you are trying to take in a lot of sodium pre-workout, that you actually, you know, are taking in a lot of water to help push those fluids through to make sure it's being delivered to the right spot. So yeah, Jacob, great question. All right, Garrett asked a couple questions in a row here, so we'll get to his. We'll kind of just go in order. Once again, if anyone wants to chime in and ask a question on the live feed, go right ahead. Garrett asked, when doing deadlifts, at what point do you feel that straps are okay to use for deadlifting? I'm losing my grip at 5 reps of 225. Okay, just drop my shit. All right, so, oh, Christina, tuning in. Didn't get to yours quite yet, Christina, but I'll get there. So anyway, as far as like using your grip when you're deadlifting, I've personally been using straps, Jesus, almost for my entire career. just because my main goal is is muscle hypertrophy, right? I'm not concerned about how much weight can I physically pick up in one rep. Although it's cool to say you picked up 500 pounds raw, it doesn't really impress me because I don't really care. I want to try to move 500 as many times as possible. And if straps help me move it a few more times, as opposed to using chalk or just my bare hands, I'm going to choose the method that helps me the most. Connor said yellow is the most anabolic color. Yeah, buddy, I know. You wear your Big Bird core shirt and core pants yellow, the Ronnie Coleman. So anyway, getting back to the topic, I tend to get scatterbrained on these. If a point where you start to fail your lifts because of your grip, switch to straps. Garrett, another question. Under my warm-up protocol, I recommend doing 2 to 3 sets to start, using to warm up with. If I'm deadlifting 325, for example, I feel like jumping from 185 to 325 is a bit much. Yes, absolutely. So if you're warming up, the heavier the weight that you're doing, the more warm-up sets that you're going to do. At one point in time, I was deadlifting in the 400s before I hurt my back, and I would do 135, 225, 275, 315, 365, and then get into my working sets. So I would do 5 or 6 warm-up sets of deadlifts before I got to actually my working set. So yes, the heavier the weight, the more warm-up sets you're going to have to do. All right, Garrett asked, and this is a solid one, and I feel like a lot of people, especially in contest prep, could benefit from this one. When will you put up your Christmas decorations? Dude, Jeff, they've been up, buddy. My wife is Christmas crazy. We've had our tree up for weeks. Let's see here. Garrett, anyway, back to this question. Said, combating hunger during a cutting phase, more specifically waking up in the middle of the night hungry. All right, so I feel like a lot of Garrett's tuning in, Fire Station 409. All right, so a lot of people do struggle with hunger during contest prep, during a cutting phase, and it is very tough. So a couple things, that we're gonna have to try to work around is one, make sure we're obviously spacing out our meals accordingly. The other day, yesterday for a matter of fact, I had my last meal about 8:15. Usually I have it at 9 o'clock. I didn't wake up hungry. I'm not in that big of a deficit right now, but I could definitely tell when I was going to bed I was a little bit hungrier than I usually am. So we want to first make sure we're spacing out our meals accordingly. Try to eat about an hour or a half hour before we go to bed, depending on how you feel. I don't like to eat a half hour or 15 minutes before I go to bed because I feel like it messes up my sleep a little bit. I found for me that an hour is most optimal. So first do that. Secondly, we want to make sure we're obviously eating enough fiber in those meals. And I want to cover this one too right now because JC actually asked a very good question that kind of ties into Garrett's. JC asked, what are some whole foods that you could eat before bed, basically to optimize absorption, to optimize hunger? So he kind of, his and Garrett's question kind of go hand in hand. What we're getting at here is, especially like with different foods, we want to make sure that we have, one, like a slower digesting protein pre-bed. So that could be some kind of casein blend. And I know JC mentioned a few core products that have some casein in it. But what I eat before bed, and I eat it for breakfast too, I eat Greek yogurt every single day. It does have casein in it, casein-like properties milk protein does. So I take that, and I usually have some kind of complex carbohydrate. For me, it's granola because it just mixes easily inside of the Greek yogurt. And then I have some kind of a fat source, and usually that is almonds. So I mix all those together, makes a nice snack. So I would say find something with casein, a high or a complex carbohydrate, and then some kind of a high-quality fat source. For our pre-bed meal. And that'll help, not wake up hungry in the middle of the night. Karen's always agreeing with that too. Yeah, good call. As far as, waking up hungry, if you're in a contest prep, you're on a strict diet, obviously I've been there before. I honestly just drink some water and go right back to sleep. I know that's not necessarily the best answer, but when you're on a strict program and you're weeks out from a competition, you really shouldn't be going off your diet. All right. That was Garrett's question. All right, we're going to dive into another one. Very important. I kind of touched on this earlier. Patrick asked me how my low back is. So I kind of kept this quiet for a while now. Told a few people here and there. But I hurt my back pretty bad. As far as it's the worst I've ever hurt my back in my life. So I mean, it wasn't devastating, but it was enough to scare the hell out of me. I hurt my back at the very end of September deadlifting. As I said before, I mean, I warm up just fine. I was doing 365 on deads, and my form must have slipped. I must not have been bracing my core right. There's a couple things that I think I messed up with, but I hurt my back pretty bad. I thought I herniated a disc. It hurt to sneeze. It hurt to bring my legs off the ground. Standing for a while was really bothering me. So I went actually to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor that I went to was actually somebody that I went to high school with. And I knew if I went to her that she knows what I do. She knows I'm a bodybuilder, and I knew that she would work around what I'm trying to accomplish. So I've been going to her basically since the start of October. So we're October, November. We're like eight weeks in. I think I only have like 2 weeks left there. But I had numbness in my low back. Like I said, I couldn't. It hurt to bring my hips forward. If I had to rate my low back as far as how is it doing, I would say I am almost completely healed. Every now and then, if I move slightly funny, I might feel a slight pain, but I'm rack pulling, I'm squatting. I haven't deadlifted yet, but I have no pain when I bend at the waist. I have no problem training my core. So, if someone has really messed themselves up, and I was, kind of under the impression that, I know everything, right? And I know how to diet, I know how to train, and obviously, I always thought I knew how to take care of my body, but going to the chiropractor has made me take a step back from my training and analyze what I was doing. And really before I got hurt, I wasn't really training my core consistently. I wasn't training it for stability. I was just doing normal bodybuilding things, picking up weight, getting a nice pump, and I really neglected my core, and I didn't really properly know how to brace my core. I was taking advantage of my lifting belt a lot. Right now, I have not used my lifting belt whatsoever. I'm just really focusing on core stability in all my movements. And I'm going to make a long post about this coming up here within the next few weeks, whether it's this week or next week, and I'll probably make actually a separate video on it. But going to the chiropractor saved my contest prep. And if I didn't go, there would be no way that I'd be able to continue with it. So definitely shout out to Christina. I told her I was going to be talking about it today. I saw she tuned in. So yeah, she definitely saved my ass. If anyone is injured and they want a second opinion, go to the chiropractor, at least be open to see what they have to say. I did, and it definitely helped me. I'm not saying it's going to work for everyone, but I would highly recommend it. Alrighty. Ben is always asking solid questions as well. And Ben asked, what is my opinion on plant-based protein? So actually this question rolled in last week and I didn't know the answer. So luckily this one came in, that one came in the live feed. This one came in early, so I had the chance to look it up. Glad your ass is okay, Brandon. That's my doctor, guys. Yes, my butt is okay. So anyway, Ben asked me, what is my thoughts on plant-based protein? So I didn't know the answer to this last week. I did have to look it up. But Ben and Matt had commented on he tagged me in a post earlier today, when people were going back and forth about like vegan diets and all that, and can you get enough protein, and what about plant-based protein? And I thought it was very relevant to Matt. So when Matt rewatches this, he'll be able to see. Anyway, my theory on protein intake has always been to look at the amount of leucine that you're taking in. I did look it up because I didn't know offhand. Obviously, I don't take plant-based protein. Usually, and this is not every single time, but plant-based protein typically has 6 to 8% leucine. So you're going to want to look at that. In comparison, meat-based or whey-based types of protein have 8 to 10% leucine. in them. So obviously it has a little bit more leucine. If you want to have a plant-based style of protein, you might just have to take more, obviously, in order to get that benefit of the extra leucine in it. So yes, obviously, I know some vegan bodybuilders, they get away. They probably just have to eat more in order to get the benefit of the amount of leucine. So just make sure, just double check if you are taking in a plant-based protein that it does have a proper amount of leucine, 2 to 3 grams, depending on your body weight. If you're a little heavier, 3. If you're a little bit lighter, 2. And that's going to be, per meal that you want to take that in. All right, Nicole asked a great question. And I'll try to be as honest as possible without insulting anybody, because we are here mainly to help people and not insult them. But Nicole said, can you give a brief summary of the natural bodybuilding organizations at the amateur and pro level? I recently switched from competing in the NPC and competed in the NANBF. I am planning on competing in 2018, and I'm curious of the different organizations and which ones would be considered elite. That's a very great question. I feel like a lot of, especially newcomers, they just don't know where to go or what shows are competitive. I've talked about that in previous videos, but I will run roughly down the organizations, at least the ones that I'm mainly familiar with. She mentioned the NANBF, so I'll run down. I'll just try to go quickly here. So the NANBF and the WPA are 2 amateur affiliates of the IPE, which is the pro organization. I happen to be an IPE pro. So those are the 2 feeders. That is one of the elite organizations that I would consider. The other ones are the NGA. The NGA has the affiliate, the NGA, so there's no different name change in there. That's a slightly larger organization. 2 other organizations that I would recommend competing in would be the WNBF. They like to feed their own organization. So it's the INBF/WNBF, I believe. Now, and I think what Nicole, and the last one would be the OCB, and the OCB has their own pro organization, the OCB Pro. Now, what Nicole was getting at, and I messaged her back and forth a little bit just to gain a little bit more information, was, whose pro cards transfer over. And that's kind of an unspoken thing in natural bodybuilding, and really it is by a show-by-show basis. But honestly, from what I've seen, the IPE Pro card transfers almost to everybody. Now, you do have to be mindful, for instance, if you go to compete in the OCB, I've heard things like they want to make you sign over your pro status just to compete in the OCB. I personally would not do that. Just because I don't want to forfeit one pro card to get into another organization. The WNBF really likes to bring people up through their own pro ranks, so they typically don't accept outside pro cards. The NGA typically accepts everyone, and the DFAC, once again, that's on kind of a show-by-show basis. Typically, they receive other pro organizations, but the most important thing that you have to look at when going from organization to organization, and this is what I talked to Nicole about, was the drug policy, or I should say the banned substance list. So each organization, at least right now, has different banned substance lists. I just saw that the ANBF just the other day said, come 2018, that they're going to be a Wada affiliate, which means they're going to stick to the drug testing in Wada. Hopefully everyone saw that. I don't personally compete in the ANBF. I feel like it's a smaller organization, so they might be trying to jump in the Wada banned test list. Just make sure when you do go to compete in an organization that you are following through with the banned substance list of the organization. Just because they're natural organizations, it doesn't mean that they all follow the same rules. So, Nicole, what am I getting at here as far as choosing a show? If I had to recommend, which obviously I coach people, and the hardest thing is to find quality shows. Number one, I told her, in our private messages, that I would say look for a sanctioned organization. So what does that mean? That means if it's under the NANBF, if it's under the IPE, if it's under the OCB, whatever, make sure it's sanctioned first. Because if you go to an unsanctioned event, Sometimes there's no set drug testing policy. Sometimes they don't even polygraph. It's labeled as natural, but there's nothing natural about it. So that's number one. Number two is I would go and I would look at years previous to see how many people were there. What did the lighting of the show look like? Everything. What did the past winners look like? And see what kind of competition that brings. Nicole made a comment that she wanted to compete in 2018, and she said that her coach was thinking about, putting into her a few shows into the fall. One of the shows, and especially if you're from the Midwest, you're very familiar of it. Sam, I just saw that you jumped on the video here. You're very familiar with this show, is the OCB Midwest States. In the fall, that is probably one of the biggest shows, especially in the Midwest. It brings a lot of competitors. It's probably the last pro qualifier of the year in the OCB. It just happened a couple weekends ago. It's like the weekend before Thanksgiving. So that is a very tough show. So obviously, if you have a good, trail of constant, people coming to these competitions, a good track record of people going to them, and a lot of competitors and quality competitors going, that they're going to keep showing up. So I would recommend, really looking at the shows and people who have been there, and then talk to the promoter. And I know that Matt's on here. Matt promotes a show. Matt promotes quality shows. So yeah, if you want to reach out to the promoter directly, don't be afraid to take your questions right to the source, and just be mindful that sometimes promoters will tell you what you want to hear. They'll tell you that there's 8 people signed up for your class, when in reality there might be 3 people, and that's unethical. And eventually these promoters are going to be whittled out. Just make sure that you're getting the right information and hold them to it. If they say that they're going to hand out a pro card, and yes, there's 5 people, and the next thing you know, they're not handing out a pro card, or whatever it is. Just make sure that the information that they're giving you is true and they hold to their word. If not, Matt loves getting show inquiries, he just said, especially from new competitors. If you're really looking, if you want to private message me, and I could recommend some personal shows based off of your general vicinity. That's what the last thing I wanted to talk about was geographic location. So if you're an amateur, I would recommend staying within your rough geographic location if you're going to do a show. I'm not going to have my new competitors travel across the country when they can go 1 or 2 hours away to do a smaller show. Now, as a pro, you don't have as much choice. I'm going to be traveling across the country. You can't really decide where you're going to go as a pro. Karen, always cracking me up. So as an amateur, I try to keep people closer. As they want to get more competitive, that's when you start to travel for shows. I've gone and done shows that are a little bit further away in order to be, around a little bit tougher competition. So as a first timer, I would try to keep it local. As you start to get more advanced and want to, see where you stack up against people, that's when you start to travel, 5, 6 hours, 8 hours away. Then once you turn pro, you're traveling across the country. All right, let's see here. So that kind of covers Nicole's question. And then Julie asked another one. Always good questions from Julie. So what are my top 3 must-dos in the off-season that can contribute to a better, more successful competition/dieting season? So my number 1 must-do, I would say, is don't be afraid to gain weight. That's the number 1. I feel like a lot of people are very afraid to gain weight in their off season for whatever reason. They like the way that they look and they want to stay that way. They don't want to get fat for their next competition. Whatever the reason is, we can't be afraid to gain weight. Obviously, we want to keep it under control. But there is a certain amount of weight gain that needs to happen in the off season. Obviously, weight gain can be muscle too, so it's okay to see your weight come up. Number 2 is bring those calories up. Once again, it's kind of along the same lines. People are afraid to bring their food up for whatever reason, and if they're going to get fat. So we want to see the food be brought up. And then 3, you just make sure you're actually training hard. And I know that sounds stupid, but a lot of people, and I've said this in previous videos, and I've made comments on my own Facebook page, is that when it's time to start the competition diet, when it's time to start getting ready for a show, that's when people start to hit it hard. And they just, if it's in the off season, they don't train hard. They just don't have that same mentality. So, number 3 would be make sure we're actually training hard in the off season. And that sounds really dumb, but I feel like a lot of people just can't get their act together in their off season, and they don't have the drive to continue to do that, for 40 some weeks out of the year, for 2-3 years at a time, and then diet, for 12 weeks, for 20 weeks in order to get ready for a show. So those are my main 3 tips as far as optimizing your off season. Alrighty, a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up. This one's going to be a little bit shorter, but I feel like it's been pretty good. If anyone has any extra questions, go ahead and comment them on the thread, and I'll get to them. Matt asked me, and Zach actually commented on my Instagram account too. So these kind of questions go hand in hand. Matt asked me the difference and effectiveness of natural test boosters as opposed to banned substances. He says, I'm not sure if I worded that correctly, but you get the point. Yeah, Matt, I get the point. So natural test boosters, obviously, if we're talking about natural bodybuilding, those are not on the banned substance list. What do? They help boost your natural testosterone levels, your free testosterone. What do things that are as opposed to banned substances, such as straight up testosterone, do? Obviously, those would be considered illegal. Now, I did have to look this one up just because I did not know the exact mechanism going on. But I don't know if some of you guys know it, but actually only 2% of our testosterone is considered free, and that is the one that has the anabolic effects. Zach's question also in there, right along the same lines, and I like when these questions kind of tie in together. It was anabolic agents. Are they worth it? So Zach, I would consider testosterone boosting agents anabolic because they're muscle building. When I say anabolic, that basically means anything that's going to help build muscle. Now Zach did name a few, and one of them I've actually looked into before, and it has to do with myostatin, and that was really popular in the 90s. Basically, if you, hopefully I get this right, if you limit the amount of myostatin that you're producing, myostatin actually limits how large your muscles can get, and then if you inhibit that myostatin trigger, then in a sense you can get as big as you possibly can. Would I push for something like that? No. I'll say that, Zach. I would not recommend that. But as far as a natural test booster, yes. I would recommend natural test boosters in your off season, during contest prep especially. Zach happens to be a young guy. I believe he's 21 years old. So he's at that point right now where he probably doesn't need to take it. I'm 26. I've been on test boosters for about 2 years now. Pretty much, through the rest of whenever I'm in a deficit, I'm probably going to go on a test booster for sure. I take them intermittently in the off season just to help with potential muscle gain. But once again, guys, let's just remember that these are going to have a very small benefit, if at all, depending on what we're taking. So just make sure we're looking at quality ingredients in these test boosting products or in these anabolic agents. So do your homework and make sure that the active ingredients are not only properly dosed, but they're actually effective, proper ingredients. So that happens to be the last question that rolled in today. And for those of you who stuck around, I kind of hinted at it earlier in the video, but this is the big announcement. So obviously, my low back is doing a lot better for those of you who have been throughout the whole video. And I'm at the point right now where I have actually started my contest prep diet. So you guys are the first to officially know that I will be competing, that I've started my diet. I've already told everyone that I'm probably competing next year. So what I'm going to be doing over the course of the next many weeks is documenting my whole process. So each week, obviously I'm still going to be doing these weekly Wednesday videos. These will be also up on YouTube probably the following day. So look for those on my YouTube account if you happen to miss them, actually the live videos. And the plan is, Karen just asked, what shows am I going to potentially do? So right now, my main goal is to do the Pro International, and that is, I believe, September 15th. I will go into a little bit more detail because I need to talk to some people first who happen to be on this live video right now. Sam, I need to talk to you. I'll tell you that right now. But that's the one that I plan on doing for sure. And then we'll see. Obviously, the goal is to win the World Championships in the lightweight division. Hopefully the whole thing, you know, we'll see. I did see one more question that jumped in on the end there. Is just curious, what natural test boosters are you referring to that you take? Currently, I take Core. Well, right now I'm not on any, but when I go to start, I'm waiting a couple weeks because I'm still taking my 8-week cycle off. I'm going to be taking Core Hard, Core Alpha, and 5AT. I'm basically going to be cycling those three and then Core Test throughout my entire prep, 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off. Once again, I'm going to be doing basically weekly videos. Those will all be on YouTube updates. It'll be posing videos, training videos, macronutrient updates, all of the above. You know how I'm doing. I'm really going to try to hit it hard, spread some good knowledge to you guys. Hopefully, you want to follow along on my journey to the stage. You know, and it's going to be interesting. So I'm really excited for it. I'm, you know, currently this is like day 3 or 4 of my contest prep diet. So I'm not really seeing, you know, anything, you know, too crazy right now. I'm just looking to take things slow. My goal is to lose roughly about 0.75 pounds per week. I'm going to be taking diet breaks. I've already talked about those, you know, long in the past before. So I'll lay out in my first YouTube video. That should come out probably Sunday, and I'll lay out my whole contest prep strategy with you guys. And then as we go along, I'll kind of update you on that. But that is the big announcement. 2018, I'm coming at you, and I'm starting really early. That way I get plenty of time. That way I could keep as much muscle as possible. And I'm looking to bring some heat. You know, I will. I'm not going to be blunt about it. You know, I'm going for it all. You know, I think I've developed a good enough physique where I really can contend at the high level. So once again, guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the great questions. I will see you next week. And once again, look for these on YouTube. And I can't wait to for you guys to follow the journey, my journey to the stage. Have a good night, guys. Thanks. Bye.